Hey friends, thank you so much for joining me in another drawing lesson. This time I want to do some figure drawing. Okay, in this video we're gonna do some figure drawing. We're going to draw a female figure laying on the ground, and she will be leaning against a pillow. So the first thing I want to do is sort of get the general structure of the figure. And in order to do that, I'll be using some very simple guidelines that will create the shape that we're trying to get here. Some people, they like to jump straight into drawing the figure as they see them, and I appreciate it, and I really love to do that from time to time. Thing is, in this video, what I want to do is actually build it properly, because first off, I'm using an image reference, and it's easier to go directly and draw directly when using a real model, but when drawing from an image, from a picture, it's kind of harder, and you actually need to sort of build the shape of the drawing first. So what I'm doing now is using simple lines just to indicate the shape of the figure here. So these are the shoulders, and this will be the head. And here I'm drawing the arms. So this is her right arm, and this is the left arm. Kind of like that. The other one is hidden around here. Now we want to get the shape of the spine in this position. So it sort of moves in a wavy shape here. It moves all the way to the waist. And here we have this sort of a curviness to the shape that moves like this, perhaps a little more to the left, somewhere around here. And then we have the two legs, so one of them is gonna be something like this, pointing with the knee towards us. Now moving here, I like to refer to this stage as the problem-solving stage, because you still don't know exactly where things are gonna come, and so you really want to very loosely indicate everything. Now this leg is slightly pointing towards us, and so it ends around here, and here we'll have the feet, and the other one is straight all the way to the left, so it's going to end a little more to the left. So now we have this sort of a guide. We have nothing basically, but we do have this sort of a guide that'll help us get through this figure. So now what I'm going to do is begin indicating the shapes of the figure in more of a three-dimensional fashion here. So I think I'll kick it into time-lapse for this stage, and I'll be back really soon to explain what I've done. Okay, we are done adding this sort of simple shapes here. What you see mostly is circles, which are representing three-dimensional balls, and cylinders, which is basically like a tube shape, and like a pipe, and some bigger, sort of bulkier shapes. Now, what we need to do now is, and this was the most important stage, believe it or not, because this is going to dictate how the rest of the drawing is going to turn out eventually. So what we want to do now is begin adding those details to the figure here to actually make it look human. So the first thing I'm going to begin working on is the hand. Now, I'm not going to follow the lines that I just created. I'm going to begin using more darker lines to get the final shape that I want for the figure. The cylinder shape is sort of a symbol for where to place all of the parts of all of the body parts, because it uses very straight lines, and the human figure is not made of many straight lines. It actually has more curved lines, and especially if you're drawing a female figure. And so females, women have more, usually a higher fat percentage, which causes them to be more curvy than men. So this is definitely something you want to get into your drawings. Now you can see this is apparent here in the lower part of the arm. We have that area with more fat, and here it's sort of more of a straight line. Here we have this curve. Also here in this part, you want to get this sort of very light curve that settles into a straight line. The elbow is sort of being buried underneath, behind this hand and the pillow, so I'm not going to indicate it too much right now. And the other hand, the other arm is going to come in this direction to the elbow, and all of this part is sort of going to be again buried underneath, but what we do want to indicate is here. And this arm is pointing slightly towards us, which causes foreshortening. I've talked about foreshortening a few times in the past. It's a rather complex topic that needs to be addressed in a separate video. But basically it sort of skews the way objects appear when they are pointed in different directions, mainly towards us. So this hand is pointing slightly towards us. Now, because of that, it looks sort of squeezed, and the thing is, here is where the arm ends and where the hand begins. So this is a challenging look to get. What I'm indicating here is actually this part of the hand. So here we have this fat area, and it breaks into the shape of the fingers. Now, in order to help myself do that properly, I'll add a few guidelines. One is curved that way, and another like this. And I'll be using those to understand where the fingers go. So I'm going to have one finger pointed directly forward like this, and another one slightly downwards, and another one that moves in this direction, and finally the small finger like this, and the thumb is not visible in this angle. By the way, it rained heavily today, and now it stopped, but it still looks quite gloomy outside. We don't get many gloomy looking days here in Israel. It's mostly sun. But yeah, so here we have the first finger, now the second one, and finally we have the smallest one here. And hopefully I got that right. I think here, instead of going like this, I need to sort of fix that. Hands are very challenging. I will do a separate video on hands, definitely. Not to say I'm a master of drawing hands, but I did study them more extensively in the past, and so I may have forgot some of the things I knew, but still I know my way around them sometimes. And yeah, you definitely need to use reference from time to time, and sometimes every time. Hopefully, when I'm looking at it, it looks as if I made the hand a bit too large. Maybe it's because the fingers aren't as thin as I wanted them to be. But we can kind of, I think, leave it at that for now, because I want to focus on the entire figure in this video. So, we are done with this upper part here. Now let's add the hair, because it is going to block some of the things from our view, and I do want to get that in now. I'm using a few simple lines that'll show me the general direction of the movement of the hair. I see a lot of people drawing using tablets these days, moving more towards digital art, and I actually never gotten used to using a tablet or a pad to draw digitally. I don't know, I just prefer to see my hand on paper, I guess. But people do make amazing things, do draw amazing things with tablets and digital drawing. So now I think it's clear where the hair is going to be. And so later we can add a bit more details to it. Now what I think I will do is kick it into time-lapse for a short while and then come back and talk about what I'm doing, because if not, then this video is going to be super long. So let's kick it into time-lapse and I will see you soon. Okay, I've added a few more details here, and I wanted to pause the time-lapse and really talk a bit about what I've done, because we have some interesting things happening in this angle. So the first thing to notice is how the entire upper torso is turned downwards, and so you can see this in the belly button, how it's not here in the center. Sort of on the lower third of the waistline. I think this is the waistline. I'm not sure. Maybe this is the waistline. I don't know. But I'm talking about this part here. So the entire upper torso is pointed downwards. And this is opposed to this area here that is pointing towards us. And so what we get is this sort of a twist in the upper part of the body and no twist on the lower part, or rather a different twist. And this happens quite a lot, and I think that quite a lot means that it happens almost always. When I say quite a lot, this is what I mean. In almost any position you will see, you will look at, you will see this, and it's very common. Now, what I mean is that this part here is the center line, and it's towards us, but on this one, it's here is the center line. Okay, this is very important to understand. And when taking a life drawing class or drawing using a model, these are the things that become very apparent very quickly. Now another thing you'll notice is the shape of the female figure is sort of has this hourglass look, and I'm correcting some of the lines as we speak. that it's very wide here, and then it's thin here, and again it's wide here. This is something to take note of. Now for the legs, I only began drawing them, and what you see here is that they are composed of very, very curved lines. This is super important. So for the most part, you'll notice how in this angle the outer curves are more dominant here. These ones are a bit more straight. This line is very straight. I think I might go ahead and redraw it, because this part does have a small curve in it, but for the most part it's more of a straight line in comparison to this part, which is very wavy. Now for the feet, the important thing to understand is that this part here connects to the back part of the feet, but not to its not to the beginning of the feet, not to the backmost part. So it's sort of like you have the feet, and this part of the leg connects like this, the feet, and this part connects here, not here, but rather here. So you do have that ankle in the back. It becomes more clear as you work on these things. So maybe what I said was Chinese to you right now, but hopefully you understood. Now I'm just going over the general shape of the leg, the foot, and I'm going to begin drawing these very gentle, small toes. And they are bent backwards, ever so slightly. Now, the challenging thing in this specific pose is the way that this leg is leaning on this one. And it's going to be very obvious in this part around here. So, first let's draw the bottom part of the leg here. Now, the thing is, remember that this part is laying directly on the floor. So what you get is more straight lines than in this one. It is influenced by the surface on which it lays. So for example, here in this hand, it pushes the pillow inside, and so the bottom part isn't visible. But with this part, we have the floor, so it cannot push the floor inwards, it just leans on it. And here we have this spot where these two lines sort of connect. The lines representing the right leg and the left leg. This is the connection here. Okay, you want to get that in quite tight on each other to convey the weight. Now, here we'll begin drawing this this foot. Now, this foot is a bit at a different angle, so you want to be very careful with it. And I'll try getting it so that you can see what I'm doing. We have this sort of a bump, and then we have this second, more gentle bump, and that leads all the way towards the fingers here. Now, the fingers are pointing slightly towards us, especially the big toe. And this part is, again, fairly straight because it's leaning on the floor. So we'll now begin drawing the toes here. So the first toe, I'm kind of breaking downwards and creating a ball shape, because it's, again, pointing towards us. And the nail is going to be somewhere around here. So you can see how it's going towards us, because the nail isn't like that straight, it's sort of squeezed, again, for shortening. Now the other toe is going to have less of an angle towards us, and so it just moves forward. It doesn't point towards us, and we will see the difference when I draw the nail. So the nail is gonna come here, and it's gonna be a little longer, indicating that it's not pointing towards us. And then as you add the fingers, you go a little smaller every time until you reach the smallest one. The best advice I can give you for figure drawing is that remember that in order to draw something correctly and make it look good and fairly realistic, you will need to observe it. This is the key. A good artist, you know, if you want to judge an artist by how realistic his work is. So an artist that creates a realistic looking or a believable looking work is a heavy observer. Okay, so the key here is to look at what you're drawing. And of course, if you want to draw from your imagination and kind of in a more cartoonish style or a comic style, then, you know, go ahead and do what you know how to do. If you learned how to draw in a particular style, that's perfectly fine. But if you're going for sketching or figure drawing from life, then you need to observe the object you're drawing. Nothing wrong with both schools of thought or both niches inside drawing. I've done it all at some point, so okay, and I think we are mostly done here. What I'm going to do is do a second part in which I go over this and I shade it in order to give it the pop it needs. So thank you for watching so far, and I'll see you soon in the next video. The one thing is, please check the link in the description box below that links to my website. You really don't want to miss what's going on over there. I'm basically offering my personal guidance to you. So check it out, and I'll see you soon.